recently we had the producers of True Blood came to Comic-Con and said no opera music in their vampires. So are there any rules or any ground rules or anything like that that you will have for Fringe that fans can hold you to 3 years from now when you break it?
Yeah, I think our first rule is only flight and tights, and I think we will have a lot of opera.
Who would like to see Josh Jackson in tights?
I think the rules are really going to be to try and make the show as obviously as entertaining as possible. And the only thing that scares us is wanting to make sure that we are, because we have this big story we're doing. It's just really finding the right pace. But we don't have any sort of rules that I think we'll probably find ourselves breaking eventually anyway.
Okay. How did for any one of the producers, how did the idea for the show sort of come about? What was sort of the genesis of Fringe?
Well, when I we were spending a lot of time together already because we were obviously doing Star Trek, and one thing kind of led to another, and all the, after now having worked together for 6 years, that's insane. We just, hey, remember that great scene, and maybe we could think of a scene like this, and what if this happened all of a sudden, you have a show?
I call it a planned pregnancy. We got in a room and decided, let's create a show.
And a lot of the stuff that Fringe deals with is stuff that I loved growing up as a kid, and Alex and Bob did as well. Things like, obviously Altered States and David Cronenberg movies and X-Files and Twilight Zone and things that were just sort of the stuff that, as a kid, made me want to be a writer and a director. And so this is really about saying what are the things that we love and how do we sort of do a show that lets us play with those kind of toys.
Okay. One of the central people who've seen the pilot, and if you haven't seen the pilot, you should just walk out right now because we're going to have a few spoilers in here, but well, don't walk out. Massive Dynamics. Is it brought to us in part by the Bush administration? How evil is this corporation?
Well, do you remember years ago, and you might not, I'm sure that some of you do, I hope, but years ago there were these commercials, just you'd see like a typical commercial at the very end, and it could be anything. It could be a soda, it could be a cleaning product, it could be anything. And at the very end it would say, Beatrice. And you're like, who the hell's Beatrice? Like, what's that? And it was like that weird thing when you suddenly realized that one company sort of owned all these things, and I'm sure there was a reason that they were suddenly coming out of the closet and saying, hey, we're Beatrice. But it was this really weird thing. I just remember feeling like that idea, or you see like those commercials for GE when you're watching Sunday morning, news shows, and like GE does everything. Like they make the light that's in the airplane, they make the plane, they make the engine, the milk you're drinking is there. Like everything is like GE, and I just think that Massive Dynamic feels like one of those companies. The show doesn't do the kind of corporate conspiracy thing that the pilot, in the same way you might expect from the pilot, but it plays a big part in the story ultimately.
And who says they're bad?
That's right.
They might be actually working on something that might save the world. We don't know.
And GE, they bring good things to life.
They bring it.
All right, I want to move on to some of the actors. Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
You tell me that it's been a while since you've graced the small screen with your presence. Tell me about your decision to come back and sort of how it all came together, and why you decided to come back.
Well, the decision to come back was mostly based on the pilot script, which read as an incredibly dense 2 hours of time. Actually, read as an incredibly dense movie, frankly. And then the process was, I hadn't wanted after 5 years. I wasn't really anxious to come back and get back into the television world, so it was the thing itself that drew me back in. And then meeting with these guys, with Alex and Bob and our director at the time, Alex Graves, and they just sort of sucked me in. And then 2.5 months of begging and pleading later, it was my job.
And for the producers, what about Joshua did you made him right for this role?
I feel like I should go into the cone of silence for this answer.
Well, in fairness, the role was originally called Pacey, and we thought, who could play this? And Josh was available. No. Honestly, the thing about Josh is that, and it's funny, we got a lot of the same kind of comments when we did Lost, and Matthew Fox was there, like, oh, the guy from Party of Five, and it's like, yeah, but he's all grown up. And what's great about having Josh is that he's obviously a very smart guy, and what he brings to the role, every actor brings some kind of baggage, and what I think Josh brings is incredible, wit and just a great skill, and he's a total pro, and so we were just thrilled that it worked out.
Anna and John, both of you, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, hail from Australia, correct?
Yep.
Any bonding over that so far? Is that...
Any bonding over me?
Just I'm just wondering if there are a lot of Australian actors and British actors are playing roles now in United States series. Is there now like a school now for how to be an American actor or actress? Is that all about?
Yes. I think they might be.
No. I mean, it's fantastic that we're both working in the same.
They can't tell you because you're not Australian. You gotta be in the club. Learn the secret handshake.
All right, I promise I won't ask any Lord of the Rings questions then. For any of the producers, you guys have writers on the staff from everything from Withoutish Race and Sopranos to Gossip Girl. It's a pretty eclectic group. How is that going to inform the show? I mean, it's going to be a multi-layered show, obviously. Can you talk about sort of the need to sort of get humor into the show and thrills and all those different variables?
Our goal when we looked for and hired writers was to find the most talented people we could, despite whatever genre they had written before. And honestly, when most of them came to meet with us, we weren't aware of their credits. We just sort of got a vibe. They had each read the pilot, and we were looking for people who could bring different things to the show. As you say, humor, scares. We're very lucky we have Darren Morgan, who is one of the signature X-Files we have one of the Whedons on our staff. And as you mentioned, we have perhaps the strongest writing staff in Hollywood, so now it's up to us to not fuck it up.
You want as much diversity as possible. You want as many different points of view because the stories are being broken at such a breakneck pace, and you want someone to say, I don't think I'd want to see that as a viewer, that doesn't sound right, or someone to say, I would want to see that as a viewer. So it's very important to get everyone's point of view in the room.
It's a great staff.
And this is not going to be a show that's just about a mythology. You guys are going to work on two layers. Can you talk about how often the mythology will rear its head? Will it be just for sweeps like the X-Files settled into, or will it be a little more frequently?
It was one of the things that, working on Alias and then Lost, both of those shows, I found people often, saying to me, oh, I watched the show at the beginning and then I got really confused. And I found it hard to, and I totally get that. And as much as I, loved working on those shows and feel, so lucky to be involved in them, I got sick of hearing that. And part of the experiment for us on Fringe is to do a show that, you can watch every episode and you will see details of ongoing storylines. And in fact, there are definitely stories that we are telling that we have to tell over a long period of time. Because if we do it all at once, honestly, it won't be earned and you'll feel that too. On the other hand, we need to do a show that if you miss an episode, as some people do, you don't come in the next week and feel confounded and it's like some kind of impossible to understand puzzle. So the key is to do a show that has the natural kind of storylines that I'm, for whatever reason, drawn to, Alex and Mabar as well, which is ongoing stories of actual people evolving, and at the same time do a show that allows an episode to have, in a sense, a beginning, middle, and end, and be satisfied by it. So there are mythology episodes that happen throughout the year, but those are not episodes that, if you didn't see an earlier thing, you're never going to understand what the hell's going on. My guess is, by the way, if we're lucky enough to get, down the line a few years, by the time you're in season 5 or 6, there's no question it'll be a little bit more inside, but at the beginning, you want to make sure that we're inviting as many people as possible.
Okay.